What is going on, everyone? I'm your host, Nick. Today, we come at you live with another great edition of Tubby Drive Podcast. Today, I'll be joined by our new co-host, Christian, as he will be joining me live here in just a second. We got a lot of great news to cover today, and I'm excited to be joined by my host, Christian, today. It's his first ever podcast. We're going to get to know him a little bit before we dive into some news today. So I'm going to send this to him, and that way he can join our podcast for the first time ever. We are excited to have him on our team. Little avid sports fans. And there's the man himself. What is up, Chris?
Yo, what's up? It's Ill Bill here, ready to set this bill straight.
Yes, sir. Excited to have you on here. All right, so you know what time of the year it is?
What time of the year is it?
It's time for back to school. And you know what happens on the first day of school? We get to know all the little kids and all the students around us. So we're gonna make this a first day type thing. So
Okay.
Chris, tell us about your sports life.
Okay, so first of all, I played football and baseball in high school, and I'm an avid sports fan. Rockets NBA, Pittsburgh Steelers for NFL, Clemson Tigers for college, Pittsburgh Penguins for hockey, MLS, Orlando, and
Oh, come on, dude.
come on, man. You know, just
Not
got
Orlando.
a new team. Yeah, man. New team, bro. Start pulling for them. And then last but not least, SC Liverpool out in the Premier League.
All those except Orlando, I could tolerate.
Okay.
Especially them Rockets, man. I was impressed the way they played last
Oh,
night.
man.
What a huge win.
Don't even
Yeah,
get
that
me
was such a
started.
fascinating game. Oh, man. It felt like they took threes every second.
Oh,
There was like 60 threes recorded by the Rockets last night.
NBA record. Tied to the NBA record. Regular season.
Yeah, that was insane.
Man.
Yeah, the Rockets are a very much three-point hungry team. I can't wait to talk about them because I watched that entire game. That was just one game that pretty much could be a finals. It could be a finals preview. And I think the only team that could take down the Lakers would be the Clippers. But if not either one of those, the Rockets would be my next pick in the finals.
Right there.
I think they could compete with the Bucks. The Bucks are a very good team, but I was impressed with the Rockets played last night. Kudos to the Rockets. They made a playoff statement right there. All right, well, we are going to dive on in. If y'all would be kind enough to drop your welcome Chris comments down below. And while you're at it, you can drop a question, a hot take, anything. This is what we're here for, to talk about this stuff. Be avid sports fans, dudes. So without further ado, we're going to dive on in. Okay, so we talked about the NBA restart, but wanted to get to the Stanley Cup qualifying rounds because we've had some interesting games. A couple of upsets. The Blackhawks took down the Oilers 6-4 in Game 1, and the Montreal Canadiens took down your Pittsburgh Penguins in Game 1. But it's worth noting that both those games were won by the 12th seed, and the 5th seed was the losing team. Says a lot for this playoff system because, I mean, hockey is just one of the most unpredictable sports.
Right.
Or playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs is one of the most unpredictable sports out there. Would you agree?
Oh, for sure, man. For sure. Especially with the bubble coming back and it just now starting back, it's hard to get hot. Going straight into the playoffs, really no regular season left. So, I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Both goalies deserve a lot of credit. Carey Price and Matt Murray balled out really, and it was just it all comes down to who was going to make that last mistake. Unfortunately, Matt Murray was on that bad side, but I think the Penguins can still rebound. That first loss doesn't define how they're going to finish out the series. I think they can still come back and win the series. Another upset, we had the Minnesota Wild take down the Vancouver Canucks last night in a 10-7, and we had the 11th seed Arizona Coyotes unfortunately take down the Nashville Predators 4-3. The Predators comeback fell so short, and they dropped Game 1 again. Because I am a Nashville fan, as you can see. Can't get this thing to turn around here. I got an idea. Right there. So, yes, that's why I said, unfortunately, beat the Predators last night. But, it just – I don't agree with us, Chris, but it just feels so good to have sports back.
Oh, yeah. Something to watch on TVs, fresh stuff, fresh takes on sport talk radio all day. It's nice, man.
It is, man. We missed it. We needed it badly. Matter of fact, I think it was 2 weeks ago, was the first ever game that happened while we were on our podcast. And our podcast has been around since mid-April. There was no games to report back then. It was all news. So that was one of the most challenging things we've done so far. And we're a brand new podcast. We had to talk about just news and no games. And March and April is one of those rich sports, months. You got the NBA playoffs, you got the Stanley Cup playoffs. No, we don't have March Madness. You had Major League Baseball. So, April and May, there was a lot going around, but not this year. We had to kind of have not really forfeit. We just had to kind of gain some momentum. All right. So news out of the NFL, the San Francisco 49ers have signed tight end Jordan Reed to a 1-year deal. It's also worth mentioning that the 49ers and George Kittle seem a little bit separated of contract talks. So if George Kittle's not available, or if he holds out or even opts out of his contract, Jordan Reed will be the next man to go for the 49ers, the next big man up, as they call it.
He has history in the Shanahan offense, so I think it'll be a good fit there for sure. Former Pro Bowler, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, he's been with he played under Mike Shanahan. I think that's correct. Which is Kyle Shanahan's dad. The two son and fathers, which haven't really been too much successful. Shanahan has had success going to the Super Bowl, but he hasn't been able to close it out.
Right, finish the job. Most important part.
Yeah, everybody laughed at him for allowing the Falcons to drop that game a couple years back, and everybody was thinking, he learned his lesson. No way he makes that same mistake again. Wrong. Made that same mistake again.
Repeat.
So bad luck. But he has a promising future. Plenty of talent on that 49ers team. They are the team to beat, not just in the NFC West, but in the NFC complete. Now, everybody on this podcast has made their picks. Oh, no, we got some technical difficulties. Okay, there we go. We're all good. But we were just wondering for Chris, oh, man, here we go again. Good over there. Having a little bit seeing that circle.
There we go.
Good. All right, good. So give us your bold Super Bowl prediction for this upcoming Super Bowl.
Okay. So from the NFC, obviously everybody's they have a little hype from the Arizona Cardinals, man. That offense with Kyler Murray, you have DeAndre Hopkins thrown in there. You can allow, and the thing what people forget is let's Christian Kirk move down a spot, Larry Fitzgerald move down a spot. Now they're going to have better matchups all over the field. And Kenyon Drake, man, really slept on. He's electric. Man, he beat New England single-handedly by himself a couple times, so I know he could be able to pull it out in Arizona. And out of the AFC, not biased because obviously, I'd say my Steelers, but take them out. Houston Texans. They got some receivers, man. I know they got rid of DeAndre, but they have Brandon Cooks now. And if Will Fuller can stay healthy, I do like Deshaun Watson, man. He really has that team under control. He's a good leader. He's a proven winner. In the AFC, other than the Chiefs and the Ravens, he's right there.
I like it. And that would be just electric. I mean, that'd be like a Brady versus Belichick type Super Bowl. It'd be Hopkins versus O'Brien Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
That would be a dream matchup to see. It's always cool to see these players go up against their former teammates or former coaches or even their former team. But that the Hopkins O'Brien matchup and the Brady Belichick would be a Super Bowl to die for.
Mm. They've been talking that smack all game. Hopkins, he loves to talk. He gonna let him know.
Yeah, but O'Brien's different compared to Belichick. Belichick didn't let Brady down. He didn't, he was loyal to them. But unfortunately, that's not the case for Hopkins, as O'Brien was not too loyal on him for some reason. I don't know why anybody couldn't be loyal to Hopkins. He was arguably one of the best receivers
for sure
in the league, and
best hands
down. Sure. But still in August, after that happened, I think in either March or April, we still have ourselves scratching our heads as to why O'Brien traded his best receiver. I mean, the Texans were Super Bowl bound with Hopkins. I still think they are, but Hopkins was just a duo that was a weapon that Watson needed badly.
Oh yeah,
and he was the top go-to man.
Oh, for sure. He always got open, made big plays when they needed it. Just a number one guy. I mean, it's going to be hard to replace him, but I think if they can have Cook step up and Will Fuller, I mean, he's having trouble staying healthy, but if he can stay healthy, man, he's fast. He can burn it deep. Sometimes that 1-2, it helps out a little bit better when you can draw the attention away from Hopkins. Sometimes they're so focused on throwing it to Hopkins when you could have different receivers spread it out. Sometimes it'll work. We'll see.
Speaking on while we're on the subject of Hopkins, where were you that day when DeAndre Hopkins made that insane one-handed catch against the Steelers on Christmas Day of 2017?
Man, I was watching it with my family. My dad's a big Steelers fan. Since we like the Tigers, didn't hurt as much as you would expect, but, man, he's a playmaker for sure. Yeah.
Well, luckily it wasn't, too big of a score because they were already down by almost 4 touchdowns. So, luckily it was just a garbage time touchdown.
Yeah. Danny Williams jumped on top of him, made a little joke about it. You see that? Remember the video?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He just jumped on and was like, yeah, they're like, Hawkins weren't having it.
Yeah, no chance. Zaire asked a question down below. He said, Christian, how do you think Cam is going to do in New England? This is a big question surrounding Cam in New England.
So I thought before all the players started opting out that he was going to have a chance to do something special because I think Belichick's had so much of an offense playing around Brady that what Cam Newton can do would have just been so dynamic. But I'm a little worried just because they've had 2 offensive linemen dropped out. Obviously, they've lost some people on defense. And then to have Chung, Hightower, I mean, that's going to be hard to replace due to the corona concerns. So, I think the tight ends they drafted, those going to help them out big. Both Keene and Asawe from UCLA, both the real deal. I think Belichick's going to put some wrinkles in, though, with that offense. That's going to make him a little bit run-heavy. It's going to be nice.
Let's take a minute to realize that. I mean, I think I'm speaking for almost like 90% of the world population, but let's just say 2020 has been pretty rough for Bill Belichick. And that goes in a list. 1, he loses to the Titans in the wild card round. 2nd, he loses Tom Brady to the Buccaneers. 3, there was something else to it. He signs Cam Newton, trying to be loyal to Cam for once. And 4th, Dante Hightower and Patrick Chung start opting out. This just it seems like Belichick is actually being tested for once.
Right.
A lot of questions.
Saying he might have sorry, man. Some people
you go ahead.
he might have a little bit of hand going in with these players opting out though for tanking. I don't know if Belichick would ever want to tank, but if there was a reason to tank, I mean that's a good reason. You get some players say, hey man, you ain't afraid to opt out. We might not have the best season, but we can get a quarterback at the end of the year. Because I'm telling you, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance, that's going to be 3 quarterbacks who go, yeah, they're legit, all 3 of them, franchise guys.
Imagine what Bill Belichick, who turned Tom Brady into a backup quarterback into, a 6-time Super Bowl champion, future Hall of Famer. So just imagine what he could do with those guys who had more success than Brady did in college, like Trevor Lawrence.
Arm talent.
Justin Fields, who I still think will win a national championship before he goes to the NFL. And I think that's coming this year. Call me crazy, but man, Ohio State is bound for some ring chasing this year.
They'll be there for sure. I think we'll see a rematch of the semifinal game. I think it'll be close to Ohio State.
Whew. That's going to be a bloodbath if that happens.
For sure.
Ohio State will never forget what happened in that semifinal game in the Fiesta Bowl last year. And that was probably one of the top college football playoff games of all time. I still think nothing can beat that Georgia-Oklahoma game from a couple years ago. That was the national championship that year. I know it was Alabama-Georgia, but that game, oh my goodness, felt like the national championship.
Basically was. Whoever won the game, you felt like was going to win the national championship that year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if Oklahoma won that game, I still think they could have beaten Alabama. The only thing that happened with Georgia is Georgia just wasn't prepared. I mean, I'm sure they had film studies into it, but they were completely, unprepared to go against Tua. And who expected a backup quarterback like Tua to come out in the national championship game with everybody watching him and just to do what he did? That's magic.
Oh, yeah.
That is pure magic.
One of the best throws I've seen
on
the money.
Horrible to watch. It was horrible to watch because part of my family is Georgia as well. So that was hard to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, never forget. But Georgia, I think some success, or I think some ring chasing is coming for Georgia as well. Now, whether or not they get it this year, well, that's up to Kirby. Kirby wants to mess his own team. Like I said, that's what's been holding Georgia back. It's been Kirby that's out coaching his own team.
Right. They get the 5-star talent. They just don't always put it to use, man. That's the worst thing to do. When you get the talent and you just can't put it together, there's no excuse.
And when you fake on 4th and 11, like in your own territory,
Yeah, he needs somebody on the sideline to tell him, hey, man, that's not a good idea. Or look at him and be like, hey, you should use a timeout here, or you shouldn't use a timeout here, because it seems like every time you think he needs to use a timeout, he doesn't.
No.
Or when you're like, no clock management, especially in close games. No clock management. It's terrible.
Horrible clock management. And he's paid for it. I mean, his team is getting the blame. He should be getting the blame as well. I know Jake Fromm got a lot of hate in that game, loss against Alabama, but honestly, when you look at it, it was more of Georgia's poor clock management. When they had that interception up 13, everybody was thinking, yeah, this game's over. Georgia's got it, in the bag. But once again, and then that next play was an interception, which I found interesting because they had Nick Chubb and Sony Michel in the backfield. So why not hand it off to them? You're in Alabama's territory.
Right.
All you got to do is just punch it up the middle, wear out that defense, and they needed another touchdown. I think that's what could have won them the game. had ran the ball on that drive instead of throwing it, which led to that interception. Because it was new life for Alabama after that interception. Oh. Speaking of football, we had the greatest news ever today. Dwayne Johnson, also known as The Rock, purchased the XFL for $15 million and has plans to re-kick off the league in 2021 in like a reported little bubble like the NHL and the NBA are doing. So if you haven't seen our podcast before, when we talk about the XFL, we use a heaven choir sound effect because the XFL was dead, and now we're hoping it rises back from the dead, which it has. So with that, I'm going to play this possibly one final time. The XFL has risen from the dead, people, and it is coming back possibly in 2021. Whether or not it'll be the same teams in the same cities with the same players, that's to be determined.
Hopefully get the Roughnecks back. The Roughnecks back.
May not get PJ Walker back, but the Roughnecks definitely deserve to be back. Also, I would like to point out, too, that the Renegades will mentioned a couple months ago right before the league folded that they will not be returning to Dallas if there is a next year. So if there's no Renegades, I would suggest opening the door to the San Antonio Commanders of the Alliance of American Football, who had the top attendance in the league at 30,000. I mean, they're a football city.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you're the XFL, you want that revenue. And San Antonio, along with St. Louis, could bring in serious revenue next year. Well, if there's fans allowed.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So who was the team that you pulled for in the XFL before it all came down?
The Houston Roughnecks for sure.
Yeah,
They got hot, man. I love Walker, bro. He was on the Steelers roster for a little bit. He was on the Colts roster. I just remember hearing about him. And then, dude, he showed out. He really took this league by storm, put that offense on the map.
Yeah, they were a spectacular offense. Like I don't think there was one team out there that could be capable of stopping the Roughnecks. If there was a championship game, nobody could stop them. The only thing that could stop them, and you hear this about, Alabama, is only them can beat themselves. That's right there. They almost did that in that last game against Seattle, but luckily they pulled away and hung on to the victory, which was that controversial ending of the taking the knee, and they ran out the clock. So interesting. But that was the last game of the Roughnecks, and no, that was not the last game of the XFL. That was just the last game for last game for the Roughnecks. But it seems as though the Houston Roughnecks could be on the return this year, along with all the other teams. I was a Vipers fan. That was a disappointment.
Oh, I got you.
Had one of the most heavily talented teams in the league that only could win one game. But it was against
dope logo.
The what?
They had a dope logo too.
They did.
Logo. Cool color scheme. Had so much potential and just did not put it together like they expected.
No, they were poorly coached. I even did a lot of studies. They were poorly coached. And then right after Trestman handed over offensive coordinating duties, the team exploded from there. Wish they had that all season, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad that they lost a lot of games because, man, having that great of a season and then having to stop it immediately, that's hard. Especially what y'all went through. Like, y'all were 5-0, and then the league shut down and then folds.
It's tough, man.
Yeah. Never get to see what would have happened.
What could have been, man.
Yeah. But third times could be a charm for the XFL, and I mean, it better be, because if there is any hope to redefine Spring Football League, this is it right here.
Probably it.
I don't think there could be a XFL 4.0. This will be the XFL 3.0. Mm-hmm. So, Dwayne, no pressure. Make it right, please. We just want to see some XFL football again. And we want to see some football as well this fall. I think we'll see some in pro, but college, that's still
college will be risky. It's going to be a risky business right now in college.
Oh, yeah. It's chaos right now. You got from whether or not schools will open to TCU's problem right now, which was controversy in the locker room. That's tough to report on.
Yeah, tough, man. It's just there's just no place for it, man. No place for racism anywhere. Even I know there's context and everything. There's no place for that word anywhere, any racial slur, especially all that's going on right now. I mean, you obviously saw the Washington football team just drop their name, which is not the place, not the time. It was never the time, but it's definitely not the time now. It's time. We're moving forward. It's not the 1960s anymore. It's not back in the day. It's 2020. It's been a tough year so far, but hopefully we can get it going with some of this social justice reform and get things back on track.
Oh. it's kind of ironic. I mean, I'm not criticizing TCSN, but it's kind of ironic that's all coming from Texas Christian University.
Anything to be held to a higher standard, being a Christian university, and that's tough. That's tough.
So Gary Patterson's future there. Hopefully, nothing. He may have to suffer a couple of consequences, but maybe he won't have to lose his job because TCU really can't lose him because they're on their program on the rise.
Yeah, he'll probably feel it in the recruits though. The recruits.
Yeah, I bet some recruits will decommit.
Yeah.
Because that I've read reports that it was he was telling him to stop saying the word, and he actually said it out loud, which could have been prevented. Not gonna lie, I'm not giving up pass. He should have just said, "Hey, dude, quit saying the N word. Don't say it don't say So I do
exactly.
I do fault Patterson for that, but it's a lot of situations going on at Texas Christian University. But Zaire actually asked a question. He said, do y'all believe Zach Evans that TCU will still win the Big 12? Nope.
No chance.
No chance.
No.
Who you got winning the Big 12?
I mean, it's going to be hard not to take Oklahoma, man. Oklahoma's the real deal. They've been proving it year in and year out. But their quarterback, they be putting the quarterbacks into the NFL. They're legit, man. That offense, they get the recruits with them. Spencer Rattles, he's going to be legit, man. Just watch out.
I actually have Oklahoma winning it as well. Oklahoma is just the team to beat in the Big 12. And it just goes back to that quarterback and coaching as well. Lincoln Riley, even though he's been with Oklahoma for this will be his third year after taking over for Bob Stoops, or maybe it was 2017 he took over. Yeah, that's right, 2017. So this will be his fourth year. I stand corrected. But this will be his fourth year. He has the coaching experience because he has coached Oklahoma, not really at the national stage, but in the playoff. So he has his ability to coach Oklahoma to the Big 12 title game and win it. Now, not far behind them, I think Texas wins, but due to a little bit more depth on Oklahoma than Texas, I got Oklahoma taking the Big 12 this year. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas made the Big 12 championship, but I would be surprised if they won it. So I got Oklahoma winning it this year and going to the playoffs. If they can win it, that's still something we need to see from Oklahoma to be legit.
Well, the other thing with Oklahoma is just like you're talking about the experience, the big play experience. They've been playing in big games. I think Texas just does not have that experience. You see it every year. They play in a big game. They start playing they always play national TV games, but when they start playing those big national TV games where everybody starts tuning in right when you think Texas is back.
Texas LSU from last year, that was one of them.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody thought they were back. Horns down, man. They're back.
Horns down.
Horns down.
Yes, sir. But also too is that Oklahoma just I just had my thought just a minute ago and I completely forgot it. But I think what I was trying to say was Oklahoma has, as I said, more skill. But the thing with them is they're capable of going on the big stage, unlike Texas. Every when it's playoff time, Oklahoma can go on the big stage when everybody's watching them and win.
Exactly.
I mean, we've seen it before. Even when it feels like all of it was lost. For instance, against that Baylor game last year, down. I hate saying this because I'm a Falcons fan. Down 28-3. They came all the way back and scored. I think it was 31 unanswered. Wait, no, it wasn't 31 unanswered because Baylor scored 3 points. It was 34-31 was the victory. So they have talent to overcome crowd noise. Even though I don't think that'll be a factor this year, but everything about them just has the capability that they're just hard to overcome unless you can outbeat them with their own talent. Like for instance, if Alabama played against Oklahoma and they beat them, yeah, that's how Oklahoma can lose. But I don't know. I don't know how Oklahoma can
especially in the Big 12. The Big 12 is just a weaker conference when it comes to talent. They just don't get the recruits the SEC, even the Big 10 and the ACC and the Pac-12 are getting. The joke is they don't have no defense. And you watch every single Big 12 game, it's going to be 60-55. Just because they just score like that. Nothing. Like they just throw it around. It's good. I mean, it's good football to watch, but when it comes to you start playing real defenses, real defensive line play, that's the big thing. When you start seeing SEC defensive linemen, man, that ain't no joke. When you see people 6'6", 6'7", 325, 330, and are running 4'4", 4'5", that's legit. That's legit speed, legit strength, legit size. It's going to be hard to stop.
Yes. And I actually did find my train of thoughts. I was going to say, now here's going to the point where Oklahoma in the playoffs. Here's what's keeping them from winning a national championship, much less making a national championship. It's what you just said, defense. That's what's been killing them every single year since. I mean, they've made the playoff 4 times since the playoff era began in 2014. And ever since, wait, no, was it 2000? Yes, 2004. 2014 was the first year of the playoff. But it's just their lack of defense. It's been hurting them ever since, and it's given them a lot of discredit for the town, regardless of how much points their offense scores, how explosive it is. No matter how great of a quarterback their quarterbacks are, they're always discredited with how bad they play in the playoff because of their defense. Happened against Georgia in 2017. Just imagine if they had at least like another linebacker, 5-star linebacker, or even or another defensive lineman to take down Michelle and Chubb. They probably would have won that game, not by much, but still they would have won and probably beaten Alabama.
Right.
You would agree, right?
Yeah, for sure. And part of that is when they play the Big 12 consistently every game, they're not seeing that good of an offensive line. They're seeing pretty good offensive lines, but then they see an SEC offensive line. They see an ACC offensive line like Clemson. They see people even out
LSU.
Like LSU. You saw it last year. They had never seen not only an offense that good, but a defense that good, and it showed. It really did.
Man, that was a waste of a game. I remember I spent so many weeks hyped for that game. We even got pizza, and then it was over within the first half. When it was 14-0, I was like, what is this? Why am I watching this? And why is this a playoff game, not a regular season or bowl game? This is a playoff game. This is embarrassing. Why is Oklahoma in this playoff game? Why do I think even someone as much as I hate Florida could do better than that?
Yeah. That leads me to ask, though, do you think the playoffs should expand?
Tough. I'm kind of against it because of one disadvantage that would hurt college football. If there's going to be an expansion of the college football playoff, that means we're going to have to take away 1 or 2 weeks of the regular season. I want more regular season than I want more playoffs because remember, there's a week in between each week in the regular season. And the playoffs, it's almost a month.
Yeah.
And then it's gone within a day. And then we got to wait another 2 weeks for the national championship. No way, dude. I like the 14 playoff. It would be cool for expansion because we could see teams like UCF get destroyed. But we'd have to forego, or we'd have to forfeit 1 or 2 regular season weeks. I don't want that, man. I want more regular season college football. I do like playoff football, but man, we gotta wait so long to watch it.
I feel like you could sacrifice though. Every year Clemson plays Furman, or like this year Clemson plays Akron. I feel like you could, or would have played Akron if it weren't for the COVID, of course. But in a regular football year, you can cut out. Every team has games like that you could cut out. I feel like maybe just one game. And if you went to an 18 playoff, think about it. The debate would be over. You can have your 5 conference champions in from the Power 5 for sure. So you would have that in. So you would have that in that argument. And then you can have what I always thought is you have one from the non-group of Power 5. So that could be UCF. Some years, Boise State. There were so many years Boise State had such a good team, one-loss team, undefeated teams, but they're not. You can't put them in a national championship game, or you can't put them in a playoff. I mean, not when there's only 4 teams. You expanded to 8. Now you can see these teams sneak in, and then you have the 2 at-larges, and that would be for the SEC schools, like because every year there's going to be 2 SEC schools in. You feel like Alabama, Georgia, even most years they try to sneak Auburn in. Even you saw in the group chat there was that picture where it was at one point Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and
Auburn.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 3 schools from the same conference. All they're trying to say all should be in the playoff. I mean, I understand they have better competition, but you can't do that when there's only 4 spots. You open up the spots a little bit, you can have a little bit more of a debate. And no matter what, though, you would know there'd be people arguing regardless. There'd be somebody sitting at 9 and be like, "Oh, we should have been in. We should have been in." I mean, you're never going to put an end to that. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, you're right. Man, it felt like so long ago when the playoff was Mississippi State, Florida State, Auburn, and Ole Miss. Now you look at all 4 of those teams, and you're like, well, except Auburn, you're like, ugh, how did they ever make it in the top 4 at one point?
Right.
But there was also a time in the BCS era where Boise State was number 2, which was no shocker because Boise State used to be that good. But there was also a time where Kansas and South Florida were in the top 2. Now just think of that. South Florida, which is a G5 school, and Kansas, who is in the Big 12, but we've all known them as a bottom feeder, 1 or 2 win team. We're in the top 5 at one point. Now, that's just crazy.
But just to show how much college football has changed as a whole with these like powerhouses. You look, it's almost like nationally, like or across the nation, you have these powerhouses. Like you got Clemson who controls regions, Alabama. Then it really's bad out west because you can start seeing like Oklahoma, who has a whole pipeline to the Midwest. If there's anybody who's anybody in the Midwest, they're going to commit to Oklahoma. It's obviously the top school in the region. Why would you not go out there? Same thing when you get Oregon and Stanford, always bringing in those recruits. Just because of the region.
Yeah, it's worth noting that Les Miles is the coach of Kansas in case we all forget, which I did too. I'm guilty of it myself. So hopefully he can snag those recruits a little bit. He's going to have to start stealing Lincoln Riley's recruit. That sounds crazy, but he's going to have to.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, that's what Kirby Smart did with Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney's recruits. He stole them. No, he didn't pay them. For all you Kirby Smart haters, no, he didn't pay his recruits. He just stole them. He snagged them. He found a way to persuade them to come to Georgia. And that's what Les Miles is going to do the same thing with Kansas if he wants to turn Kansas from a 1-win team to at least a 7-win team.
Oh, for sure. They got to sell culture, and they got to start low and just build it up piece by piece. He looked all right, though, this year. They didn't look as bad as they usually look. So I think he could. I think he might have a shot, but it's going to be tough for sure.
Definitely tough.
Be a powerhouse.
And I think he has same issue as Chip Kelly with UCLA. Now, UCLA has always been sort of like Kansas, never been great, always been kind of like a bottom feeder of their conference. But one thing, UCLA has never been number 2, unlike Kansas was about 13 years ago. And he's kind of battling the same thing. Chip Kelly built UCLA up into something special. He's going to have to steal the recruits of Oregon. I think there's also Oregon and USC. Even though those teams aren't, I think Oregon could be argued as playoff contenders, but they're not typically powerhouses like Oklahoma, Alabama, and Clemson, as we were talking about. But if Chip Kelly wants to build something special, he's going to have to steal those USC and Oregon recruits, and only those. Maybe those Washington recruits. Though Washington does not get as rich recruits as Oregon. Oregon recruits the best in the Pac-12. USC, crazy enough, I'm saying this, USC had the worst recruiting class this past year in 2020. They were worse than Oregon State, and Oregon State is bad.
Yeah, real bad.
Real bad. They're just like Kansas now. See, Zaire said, give Oklahoma that 2016 Clemson deal, and they're nearly unstoppable. Man, it feels like we could never get a team with a high-powered offense and a high-powered defense. I know we saw that in 2016 with Alabama, that top-scoring offense against that top-scoring defense. And that was probably one of the best teams to never win a national championship right there. But it just feels we always seem so short of seeing a team like that, an unstoppable offense against a stonewall defense. When can we ever see that? It definitely won't be with Oklahoma, I can tell you that.
Right, hardly ever.
Yeah, unless Lincoln Riley can start recruiting on the defensive side of the ball. He does well on the offensive side of the ball, but I don't know. I think he recruited a 5-star linebacker like this past offseason or something, but he's got a long way to go. He's got to build up a defense. If Oklahoma wants to get more credit in the playoffs and not be excluded because they're just a humiliation in the playoff stage, he's going to have to start recruiting on the defensive side of the ball.
You got to start landing multiple stars and across multiple regions. You want to have positions. You want to have them at DB. You want to have them at linebacker. You want to have them at defensive line. They usually have maybe that 1 5-star, that 1 high 4.5-star, but you want to make sure you want to have them everywhere. And that's what Clemson does a good job at. Alabama does a good job at. Georgia does a good job at. They put together almost super teams across the country. All these high school players who are getting all these looks come together, and they form these little 2-3-year teams, and they see what they can do.
Yeah. Clemson, they have become such a high power. I think, honestly, they're another dynasty coming on the verge soon. I remember back in those days when Clemson, they were good, but they were always a team that finished with like 2 or 3 losses. Right. Now it's so hard to get them to even lose one game, and that's in the national championship. That's it. It's so hard to get the Clemson to lose a game nowadays, mainly for the reason that back then the ACC was competitive. Now it's literally nothing. And you can't convince me with North Carolina and Miami. Those teams are not competitive whatsoever. I'm sleeping on them because I have no confidence in both those teams going into this year. There's always 1 or 2 teams that are overhyped in the offseason just to go and disappoint in the regular season. Last year, that was Miami, and now they're once again overhyped because they got Derek King from Houston. And now North Carolina's overhyped because of how great they were in 2019. They were great, but now it all comes down to, can Sam Howell avoid the sophomore slump? Oh, that's just disgusting.
All about the U. They hyped it up. I'm not sure about it, though. I'm with you. I don't think they can put it together. I think it's a little bit in the past, not quite for the future.
Yeah, a lot of people are ignoring the fact that Miami kind of has a cultural problem. I mean, Manny Diaz has taken what was supposed to be the turnover chain team and completely washed them away. I mean, 2018 they were expected to make big noise or loud noise, even make the playoffs. Didn't see that. Lost 6 games that year, and now this past year they seem to have gotten worse. 7 losses, 14-0 loss to Louisiana Tech in the bowl game. It didn't seem like the future's bright. There goes another voice crack. But Miami has a lot to prove this year. I'm not sold on them yet. I'll be sold on them when I see some improvement. Eli asked a good question. He said, what are y'all's thoughts of the Power 5 conference's possibility of split ways from the NCAA since the NCAA has taken away their fall championships? That's another good question.
I'd say right now it's a low percentage just because it's early on. But I would say as time goes on and there's less and more of a plan and less more leadership going on through the top of the NCAA, the more likely there's a chance that they're going to split. Especially that I know the ACC and the SEC and the Big 12 or the Big 12 and the Big 10 for sure want to play football. I don't know about the Pac-12 yet. I don't know if they're still 100% committed on playing, but I know those 4 conferences are all in. They don't want to lose the revenue. They don't want to lose the money, the hype. They're going to play football this year, regardless if NCAA decides they don't want to play football this year.
Yeah. I think the NCAA is trying to help out just in case it all comes floating down. But I mean, when you really think about it, money is on the line. I know that sounds crazy and I know it sounds greedy as well, but money is on the line for these schools. And when you have schools losing $300 million because of a lost football season, well, that's gonna make them cut other sports, and that's just gonna even cause the revenue to drop even more. So it's imperative that these schools have a football season, especially for teams like Alabama and Georgia and all these teams in the SEC that make a lot of revenue from football alone. And that's what keeps their other sports running. So if there is no football season, well, now you got their other sports on the verge of being cut. And then that's more and more.
About the smaller level, like smaller schools like that really rely on that football money, that they don't have almost anybody going to the smaller school sports like women's basketball, women's volleyball, men's soccer, men's lacrosse. You hardly ever get people to go to those games in general, especially at a local school nearby, Furman. They already had to cut 3 different programs this year, including men's baseball, which is crazy in 2020 that you're seeing a men's baseball team cut just because you don't hardly ever see baseball being cut. It's one of the top sports in America.
Welcome to 2020, where the impossible seems to happen and where the unexpected seems to be expected. So just because it looks like we're going to have a football season right now, a lot of players want to have football season, don't get your hopes up high, people, because we all wanted March Madness and we didn't get it. So Zaire asked a really good question down below. Seems to be one of the growing questions upon this year. Do y'all think Notre Dame will do damage in the ACC? He said he's got them losing to UNC and Clemson for sure. I'm not sure if they'll lose to UNC, but there's no doubt they're going to lose to Clemson.
Yeah, I don't think they can hang with Clemson. Clemson's just still head and shoulders the best team in the ACC, even with Notre Dame in it right now.
Yeah. I have to do is look at Notre Dame and Oklahoma are very much alike. They have great regular seasons, though Oklahoma produces the better NFL talent compared to Notre Dame. But what both teams do great in college ball is humiliate themselves on the big stage. Notre Dame, do I need to say it? The 2018 semifinal game against Clemson, the national championship game from so many years ago. That was hyped to be probably one of the greatest games ever. It turned out to be a dumpster fire of a game that was over at halftime. Literally, I turned my TV off at halftime. It was 35-0. It was over. And Notre Dame, I don't even think they even scored a touchdown that game. Any point, actually.
Notre Dame sent out their junior varsity that week.
Exactly.
You're like, what? Where are the guys that we saw all season performing so good?
Undefeated, 12-0, and that team looked like the 2016 Notre Dame that went 4-8. But except Oklahoma has done it more than Notre Dame since Oklahoma's been to the playoffs more, and they've lost more games. Notre Dame's only been in it once. Though Oklahoma can actually score points, unlike Notre Dame did in that playoff semifinal game. And Zaire just mentioned it, the Notre Dame-Miami game. There's another humiliation point for Notre Dame.
Okay.
And that was a game they were number 3, and I think Miami was number 7. That was supposed to be a good game as well, but it turned out to be, and that's when we all knew the U was back. But that was a fluke many weeks later when they were taking down my Pitt.
So if it was an 8-team playoff this year, I would have Clemson coming out the ACC. I would have, if we're talking about this upcoming season, I would have Alabama coming out of the SEC, Oklahoma coming out of the Big 12. I think Oregon sneaks out of the Pac-12, and I think Ohio State wins the Big Ten. I think
No
they're
doubt.
the rest of the Big Ten. And then for my at-larges, I really do think UCF, if there was an 18 playoff, they would be the team that most benefited from it, because you would finally get to see them slip in. Because I really think the most fairest thing they could do was put a non-Power 5 school in for sure. Guarantee them a spot that says, hey, you go undefeated, you're in. Go ahead.
You're in.
Boise State, go ahead. UCF, you think you're national champions? Go ahead. Go prove it to everybody.
Go play the big boys. Go play Bama.
Mm-hmm. Go play Clemson.
Go play Clemson, yeah.
See if you can stay on the field with Georgia. We'll see. Although that year UCF, they did beat Auburn in their bowl game, which made it real little more interesting about whether or not they could have contended, because a lot of people said they couldn't even beat Auburn, an SEC school, and they performed. They proved it. So
Oh yeah.
Those are the years that you really wish there would have been an 18 playoff for sure.
Yeah. I mean, even UCF offered Alabama home and home. I could probably tell UCF was probably scared because they only said it to make them look like they're strong enough to compete with it. They probably didn't want to. They rejected a 3-game set or a 3-game series with Florida. That said a lot because Florida was also an SEC school in there. But UCF just I mean they're talented, but I mean could they compete with top dogs like Clemson and Alabama even in 2017 when they beat Auburn? No.
Probably not.
I'm gonna say right here, no, they couldn't. They would have gotten smashed probably by 50 points.
Yeah, they don't have the consistency across the board at depth of positions to consistently perform. You know, Clemson can throw out 3 or 4 stars backups, whereas if UCF's getting 3 stars, 4 stars, that's their best recruit. You know,
Yes.
It's a whole different recruiting game. Clemson's gonna have the size, the speed, the athleticism. Same thing with Alabama, Georgia, even Oregon, Oklahoma to a certain extent. They're all gonna have it. Ohio State, who I think is once again destined for another playoff berth and another. I think they have a good chance of running it to the national championship for sure. They're legit.
Oh yeah, they are probably one of the most talented teams in college football this year. We did forget to mention that UCF also lost to LSU in that Citrus Bowl last year. But it's funny they didn't just lose to LSU; they lost to LSU's practice squad pretty much. Every player from LSU was injured that game, and UCF still failed miserably. They got up to a 14-0 lead, so that's something to brag about. And I think they're the last team. No, never mind. They won that game. I was going to say that was the last team that LSU had lost to, but no, I was wrong because I forgot LSU had won that game. And that was the game before the LSU tear began, and felt like a whole year after that, it was just complete dominance of LSU, and that's probably one of the greatest teams we've ever seen. Not just LSU from all time. That team was unstoppable, and I really can't say Ohio State, if they beaten Clemson, could have beaten LSU in the national championship.
Oh yeah, they didn't. I don't think they could have. I think LSU was just their year.
Their year.
Burrow proved it. The receivers proved it. They were best in college football.
No doubt. Probably the best to ever play. But, you know, that's another conversation for another time because there's plenty of teams out there that had that same skill and level as 2019 LSU. If you have any more comments or questions down below, we are enjoying these questions. It's about time y'all drop some questions down below for our fans. It's been mostly just reading off notes. I mean, we've asked our fans to drop comments and questions down below, and it's been crickets pretty much.
I got you.
So, finally, some questions. Concerning news out of baseball, St. Louis Cardinals have postponed their 4-game set with the Detroit Tigers, because of a rise of coronavirus in their case or in their staff and their team. Field of Dreams has been moved to 2021 on very late notice. We were 2 weeks away, and that is I think it was either 2 or 3 weeks away. I think it was 2 weeks away from game. That's been moved to 2021. Now here's something that I've been dying to talk about on this thing is the crazy story behind Yoenis Cespedes' story from yesterday. Now that was just insanely scary, but really
nobody knew what was going on. It was just crazy.
Yeah, I remember when I first saw the headline, I was not gonna lie, I was laughing. I was thinking, man, that is such a Met thing to do. Then I realized, wait a minute, they still haven't found him. Like, could this actually be
like a serious situation?
Yeah, serious. I was like, I was actually kind of nervous for him. And then soon we started to learn that the Mets had no reason to fear he was at risk, or had no reason to believe he was at risk. So that took off a lot of pressure. And then we found out he had opted out
of the season.
All the way out. He was all the way up in New York. So that's a Met thing to do right there.
Right. Oh, exactly. That's typical Met.
Yeah, and I have to admit that was very. You can't. I mean, there's a lot of things the Mets can be blamed for, like how pathetic their organization is. But when your player skips out on you and you can't even get in contact with them, that's not the team's fault. Dude. That is seriously on the player. And I don't know how he hasn't. I know he's opted out of I know he's opted out of his season, and you can't really punish him for that. But that's just bad. Like he had a lot of people crapping their pants. Like, oh my goodness, did something actually happen to him? Or we about to see a Tyler Skaggs 2.0. Not bashing Tyler Skaggs, just saying, hopefully we don't have to repeat a day like that.
Right. When we're losing another member of Major League Baseball.
We didn't need that.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily he is alive and well. He just guess he was tired of being a Met. You could blame him. Mets are currently on a 5-game losing streak, but last time I checked, they're
beating my Braves right now.
Yeah, my Braves. Dang it, I can't get my thing. I haven't checked score. Soroka left the field with an injury. That is also concerning for the Braves. Mets are
not good for my Braves.
7-0. But luckily for Atlanta, that's okay because they've won 5 in a row, and they will still be 7-4 and first in the division. So not a lot to be fearful for the Braves. Excuse me. So that's just going on for the Braves. NBA scores: Pelicans are on top of the Grizzlies, 88-78, with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The Spurs and 76ers are deadlocked at 37. The Toronto Raptors took down the Miami Heat at 107-103 in another impressive win for the Raptors. The Nuggets beat down the Thunder 121-113. Pacers were able to pull away late from the Wizards and win 111-100. And the Lakers and Jazz play later tonight. Those are your scores around the NBA. No game beats that game from last night between the Bucks and the Rockets. That was just the game of the restart season.
Yeah, so far, for sure. James Harden showed who the real MVP should be and who should be the MVP. Giannis, Harden should be the MVP. Giannis, I don't know, man.
Yeah. It's still going to come down to probably LeBron or Giannis. Just because they're both on
Giannis will probably still squeak it out, but I don't think he deserved it last year for sure. I feel like Harden just had a scoring. If you look, Harden's numbers were better last year than they were 2 years ago when he did win the MVP. I really think he just didn't win the MVP because he had won it the year before. They don't want to give it to him back-to-back, but I don't think they're going to have a problem giving Giannis his back-to-back because it looks like he's destined for another one.
Man, that Rockets team in 2018, they were bound to win the finals. And, man, just Chris Paul getting injured.
Get cold from 3. We just
let him down.
3.
27 straight threes fell to the Warriors, who went on to sweep the Cavs in what was probably the worst NBA final series in history. Watched all 4 games. Wasted my time. I could have been watching paint dry.
Yeah, it was over after game 1 when J.R. Smith made one of the most competitive moves I have ever seen in the history of basketball. Just made you go, what is this man thinking? I was watching it with a LeBron fan. Oh, you should have seen it with seen his face, man. He lost it.
Oh, who could blame him? I bet every Cavs fan was screaming, throwing their stuff at the TV, and rightfully so, man. I think if something, or if there was a change of events, like if JR rebounded the ball and won the game, I'm not saying the Cavs would have won that series. I think it could have been a different outcome.
Oh, for sure. It would have definitely changed the whole season. I mean, the whole series. I think after that first game, though, it just kind of proved that the Cavs really were not quite at that level of Golden State. LeBron just can't do it by himself. And to answer Zair's question, I don't think the Celtics have a high percentage chances of beating the Bucks. I do think the Raptors, though, really do. I think the Raptors and low-key the Heat, the Miami Heat's right there too. The Miami plays good defense. Jimmy Butler, he's a dog, man, especially on the defense end. He may not have that offensive side to him all the time, but him and Bam Bam or Bam Adebayo, yeah, they're going to be legit. But I do think the Raptors have the best chance out of anybody in the East of taking down the Bucks. And I don't think the Bucks is going to have anything for whoever comes out the West, whether it's the Lakers, the Clippers, or the Rockets. I think it's not the Bucks year this year.
My words exactly. I was thinking the exact same thing when I saw that question. I don't think the Celtics have much of a chance against the Bucks because they are pretty much lacking depth to the Bucks. But the Raptors have, once again, another chance to take down the Bucks. And if the Bucks don't make the NBA Finals and there's somebody else that comes out of the Eastern Conference in the Finals, it's going to be the Raptors once again. and they're really starting to prove that they don't need Kawhi to win an NBA Finals.
Especially
like last year,
stepping up.
Yeah, they're doing really well, and they took down. I mean, there's plenty of evidence to prove that they are the team that could take down the Bucks. I mean, they took down the best team in the NBA. Well, another top team in the NBA, the Lakers, a couple nights ago. They just beat the Heat, who are another top dog in the Eastern Conference. So the Raptors have pieces to go out and win the Eastern Conference again, defend their title.
Yeah, I was saying they have the experience. They did it last year. I know they
did it last year, yeah. So the question is can they do it again without Kawhi?
Exactly.
That's the big question. But I still think the Bucks come out of the East with the in the NBA Finals. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was the Raptors. I would definitely be surprised if it was the Celtics. Needless to say, the Celtics much less than the Raptors.
Tatum needs a few more years just to refine his game to I feel like he can be the guy. I think he has a little killer in him right now, but I don't think in those big games he has that big killer in him.
Yes. Oh, and let's not forget Jason Tatum's brick. He was like 2 for 17 in that loss to the Bucks a couple of days ago. So that was tough for the Celtics. And
anytime you 11% from the field, that's no.
Even I could do better.
No good.
Muy bien, just kidding. That is a muy mal for Jason Tatum. For all you English people, muy mal is very bad. That goes all the way back to first grade Spanish, but very bad for Jason Tatum. And the Celtics do have talent, but I don't think they have the talent compared to the Bucks or the Raptors. It's Bucks Raptors once again, and that could be another top brewing rivalry in the NBA. There's plenty of rivalries that are brewing in the NBA. The Celtics and Lakers is one that is really getting heated, but the Bucks and the Raptors is one that hasn't been known as a rivalry, but could have some heat between the teams for many years to come. Same with the Heat and Raptors, and maybe in the Heat, the Celtics and the Bucks as well. Plenty of rivalries to be coming and brewing.
You can't forget the Sixers.
Yes, and the Sixers.
Yeah, Sixers and Celtics also have a great rivalry.
Yes, once Joel Embiid. The Celtics and Sixers is really heated. Matter of fact, it's been heated for quite a while now. That was an up-and-coming rivalry right after the Sixers got really good after so many years of trusting the process. But Celtics and Sixers have been rivalries for a good while now. Now it's probably going to be a Raptors-Bucks rivalry. So I dropped a comment. He said, "Imagine a Raptors versus Clippers finals." I could see that. That'd be interesting because that would be Kawhi Leonard against his old team in the NBA Finals.
And that would be, it would be real interesting for sure to see if Kawhi can just pull it out against his old team. Yeah. He would definitely have the much better roster though, for sure. Paul George is legit. And
Ben get Kawhi's third team.
Yeah, as long as the Will can stay out the strip club, he'll be all right.
Lou Williams, strip club in Atlanta. Now he was quarantined for 10 days. I think it's still going. So
one of a kind.
But the Clippers are doing just fine without him, and I think Clippers, behind or just ahead of the who was I talking about? The Rockets are the top dog to take down, or the top team to take down the Lakers. If the Lakers are not meant to go to the finals this year, but the Raptors versus Clippers, this would be Kawhi's chance to win a third championship with a different team. One with the Spurs. Yeah, 1-1 with the Spurs, 1-1 with the Raptors, and now it could have possibly a chance to win one with the Clippers. It only took him 1 year.
He could also be 3-time Finals MVP, which would be
true.
Very, very unique. You don't see that happen very often. Matter of fact, I would be willing to bet it's never happened to see have 3 different Final MVPs with 3 different teams.
Yeah, I don't even think nobody's even made the finals with 3 different teams, or at least I know for a fact that nobody's won a finals with 3 different teams.
Yeah, so that would be a first. So it'd be real interesting.
That would do really good for the league. Right now, it seems as though we pretty much have I wouldn't say guarantee, but it's favored to be the Bucks and Lakers, which would be a good series. LeBron versus Giannis, that would be a top matchup, and that would be a matchup worth dying for, pretty much.
Yeah,
so many of those. It's equivalent to LeBron and Kobe, pretty much, which we never saw.
We almost had it 1 year, but LeBron could not make it through.
We almost did.
Why Howard decided he was going to take on the Lakers.
Yeah, and we may never know. Kobe's obviously gone now. Any chance we see like LeBron, like if Kobe ever became a coach, well, I'm not sure if he would. But if he ever became a coach, obviously that's out of the picture. We can't see a LeBron versus Kobe. Imagine a coaching matchup between LeBron and Kobe in the finals.
two of the greatest basketball minds to ever play the game. That would be it would have been a rough streak.
Yeah, 2020 been so rough. We had to lose Kobe, man. That was hard.
Yeah, it started it off. I think
That started it off.
Domino
Yeah.
effect.
Oh man, 2020 rough. Everything's gone wrong. I mean, even before there was the World War III outbreak, the Australian fires, Kobe, and then that's where COVID took over. And ever since then, it's been dominated by COVID. Not good. Not a good time to be living in 2020. And until the day we die, we'll always remember our podcast in a pandemic when there was no games on and there was just news to talk about.
The worst time to start one was the time it came through.
Yeah, man, I feel like I'm talking in the 1960s. Oh man, when I first started a podcast, the only thing we could talk about was scores, and there was news, and there was no scores because we were in the pandemic. I feel like I'm talking about like someone in World War II. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel right now.
We're talking about 2020. It's just
we're talking about 2020.
Wild times.
Oh, it's like 20. Like a lot of people have made memes 20 years from now. It's like Daddy or Granddad, can you tell me about the year 2020? All you have is flashbacks of World War III outbreaks, hand sanitizer, helicopter for Kobe. So not good things will come around when it comes down to 2020. And we were only in month 8. We still got September, October, November, December.
Hopefully the NFL can save it. Hopefully the NFL can save it.
Hopefully, man. Hang in there, people. We're getting there. We're more than halfway through the year. What has been one of the most toughest years this world has ever seen, probably since the Spanish flu years, and that was even devastating as well. So that's going to probably do it. This will actually do it for this edition of Tuppy Tribe Podcast. We enjoyed having Chris on our first podcast. He was amazing. He killed it. So when you get a chance, DM him and tell him how great he did. Because honestly, you did really great today, man.
I appreciate that, man.
Man, future's bright with us, man. We're excited to have you being part of this team. We can't wait for our next podcast.
Make sure you follow us on Facebook. Make sure you like us on Facebook. If you have a Facebook, same tag as the Instagram. Find us on Facebook. We should be able to be looked up in the next couple of days for sure.
Yeah. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm sure Zaire will have these videos up and running on there soon. One day, we're here in a month, we'll have our own website, and we'll be able to post our podcast on the website as well. We'll sell our merchandise, so y'all go and buy a little Tuppy Tribe, something to cut the grass in. So continue to do that. Show your podcast to your friends, your family, anybody who's an avid sportsman. Send our podcast to them because we are avid sportsmen and we love to talk about it and entertain our fans with a talk of sports. I'm about to be kicked off this Instagram Live because it's only a 60-minute maximum time on a live video. So with all that being said, we
for the tribe.
So what?
Hashtag for the tribe.
Hashtag for the tribe. Yes, sir. So with that being said, we will see you guys next time on Tuppy Tribe. So long.